regardless where it's at. We'll go ahead and pick up on this tutorial. And we can actually use that practice document you have in front of you. The guys, even if you've submitted it already, you can go and open it up because we'll use that as we go through this tutorial. So wherever you're at in that in-class exercise, just kind of stop for a second, focus on the overhead. We'll kind of go over this and highlight some things that you need to know. So again, this chapter goes over editing, doing some more advanced editing, adding tables to a document, modifying a table, formatting a table. One of the things you find a lot in documents that you need is setting tab stops. We'll go over that tonight. We'll also go over creating footnotes and endnotes. We'll look at the SmartArt graphic. We will not go into document into sections. That's too long of a section to go into, but we'll go into SmartArt graphic, headers and footers, cover page. So I'm going to jump right into content here. Okay. When you're typing a letter, let's say it's a newsletter, and we're going to be doing one next week. One of the things in a newsletter you do a lot is you have headings per article, right? And so in your Word document, you can either use one you're currently on, or you can, might be good to start a new one maybe. To have a blank document like me if you want to. Just go ahead and click. Anybody remember the shortcut key to start a new one? Control N. And so I'm just going to go ahead and type in the word heading here on the top of my document. Okay. Type in the word heading as well. And so when you're in a document and you have a heading like this one here, summary, expert advice, what is the energy audit? Basically, in the font style, if you highlight heading with me, and you can go over here to say Calibri, which we're on right now, and go to say Cambry. And you can actually choose a style, heading style in here. And let's hover over, let's say, heading 1. If you can see that on mine, hopefully you can see it on yours. Heading 1 is the default heading. You'll notice it changes it to a blue font and makes it a little bit bigger. Go ahead and click on that heading 1 to keep that as is. So we want that heading. Let's go ahead and put in there heading space number 1. We'll hit enter twice and type in heading 2, heading space number 2. Hit enter twice again, heading space number 3. And what I want you to do with heading 2 and 3 is apply what we just did with 1, heading 1. Highlight each one of them, go up and make it heading 1, heading 1 style. And so let me come around. Do I know? Okay, if you look on the overhead, it's right here where I'm pointing to on my mouse. Okay, so all you need to do is highlight the heading that you're wanting to change, the line you're wanting to change it to a heading, highlight it, go to heading 1, click on it. Okay?
Then you want to just enter space and do it again?
Yeah, you're just going to have 3 of them just like this, basically. Now, as soon as you get heading 1, 2, and 3 completed, put your cursor right underneath heading 1. When you put your cursor underneath heading 1, you should have normal highlighted on your document, that little box there in the styles area. Okay? Okay. Now I want you to type in heading 1. Underneath heading 1, let's go ahead and type in first sentence. Spell it right. Okay. Now, when you put your cursor before the F in first and put your mouse up here where it says paragraph, and there's two icons I want to focus on real quick. One is increase indent and decrease indent. All right? Let's click on the increase indent, and what that should do is should indent the line one indentation, which is roughly about 5 to 6 spaces by default. If I do decrease indent, it's going to decrease it. And this is helpful, for instance, if I have this, let me show you. I'm going to go ahead and take this first sentence, and I'm going to duplicate it some here. We'll just put some dummy text in here. All right, so I'm going to make sure that I'm going to do something like this to kind of show you the power of indentation. Do what now?
Doing that where it said first sentence, you were able to copy it like that fast.
Basically, just copy the first sentence like so.
Yeah.
You want to make sure, though, you don't copy past the E.
Okay.
So if you double click or triple click, it's going to copy all of it. But if you just highlight like so, do a Control C, and then Control V. Okay, and you can do that actually. Let's do that underneath heading 2 and heading 3 as well. That will have kind of 3 paragraphs to play with here.
And hit Control C.
Yep, Control C, then Control V to paste multiple times.
Yeah, but it's just going underneath. It doesn't go next to each other. Mine's going underneath.
Okay, what you want to do is this. Let me show you. Let me start over on the. Let me put something here. I'll put first sentence here again. Okay, I'll highlight first sentence. Put my cursor right there. What you might have to do is highlight the second instance possibly. After you copy it once, you might highlight the second instance. It looks like it might be easier. It's kind of tricky.
You want us to do it all 3 of them?
Yep, just kind of like mine. As soon as you get that done, go ahead and do a Control S to save that to your desktop. As always. Save it to your desktop. It's first initial, last name. I'll come around and help you. We're just putting some dummy text in there, so it doesn't have to be perfect. So, yeah, just go ahead and highlight that. Do Control C. Okay, do a right arrow. Right arrow on your keyboard. That'll put the cursor past sentence. Go ahead and put it up there at right there. Okay, now hit the space bar once. Control V. Okay, go back. Now highlight and copy the second instance of first sentence. Highlight and copy that. Control C. Right arrow. Space. Control V. And then do space, Control V. Keep doing that. Okay. And what you might do is actually you'll need a space there to make it easier to copy and paste. So okay, Control V. Keep going. You don't need to put space now. It'll do it automatically for you. Okay? Yep. I was a graphic designer for 8 years, so we had to do a lot of dummy text like this, and when we put together newsletters, it didn't make any sense. It was just for layout, so I'm used to doing it pretty fast. So if it takes you some time to figure out how to copy and paste, it's okay.
You highlight it here, do a Control C,
Yeah.
and then the arrow, did you say?
Right arrow.
So mine goes to-
Now you'll need to go back then. Just go backspace, space, put your cursor on the end. Now do this time. Highlight first sentence. Any one of them, doesn't matter. Not all, no, just first sentence. Okay, now copy, Control C. Just do Control C. Okay, right arrow. then Control V. Keep doing Control V now. There you go. Keep going. There you go.
Ooh, cool.
Yeah. Once you get that first one good, you're okay. It's getting that first one copied successfully and pasted successfully. And when you're doing a newsletter, this is a suggestion. You don't have to do it this way. I do suggest doing newsletters like this right here. You're not putting anything in there yet. You're just putting the layout together. And then content you can plug in later as far as for the content you've already planned and put together to have kind of a layout first. So basically on your headings, the increase, decrease is one. You'll note also on the headings there's more than one type. I'm going to go ahead and highlight heading 1 and scroll down. There's different types of headings available as well throughout. If I highlight this heading, go back one, and I want to say change it to a different font, I can do that. It's in Calibri right now, but say I wanted to change it, I don't know, to something else, like maybe, usually your headings are pretty bold fonts like this. Bodoni is a popular heading. Right? You can change it, but it's still going to keep, you'll notice it'll still keep the heading font style. Okay? I'll keep that up there and save it, and I'm going to keep going on PowerPoint on this one. You'll notice on the left side of your screen, and I'm going to come back to it in a second, on the left side of your screen there's a highlighter on the left side showing you, yours is probably clicked on the very left one, not on the middle one. And so what this is for is basically selecting a thumbnail of your document here. So everybody click on that. That gets a thumbnail of your document. Here gives it an actual outline view. Okay. If you right click on any one of these, heading 1, 2, or 3, do what now? Do this right here? Do you guys not have thumbnails show up on yours? It should be in the navigation. Yeah, view navigation, if it's not already showing in your pane here. Does everybody have that? It should be by default unless you guys turned it off on 2010. So if you go to view, check navigation pane, you should see what I see. Everybody have that? Who doesn't have that? Okay, wait till everybody has it. Click on the view menu, then check navigation pane. Got it? And it'll turn on. Just like mine, if I turn it off, it goes away. If I turn it on, it comes back. Everybody have that?
There you go.
If I uncheck it, it goes away. Check it, it comes back. Right here, where my mouse is pointed. Got it? Okay. So view navigation you wouldn't use all the time, but when you're forming a document and beginning to edit it, you would. Now, if you look on the overhead, if I right-click on heading 1 and say demote, okay, what this is going to do is actually, if you'll notice, if I go back to the Home tab, it's demoted it now to heading 2 without doing anything because I demoted it. If I right-click now and go promote, it goes back to heading 1 style. So right-click, demote, go ahead and do that, just on the first one, just on heading 1. What else do you notice besides it changing the style to heading 2 when you demote it? What else does it do in the view here, visually? It brings it in to the right. It indents it, right? So you kind of know what it's doing, all right? The purpose for promoting and demoting headings are generally, for headings of articles, they're generally going to be a heading 2. Titles of pages will generally be a heading 1. But I've seen article titles be heading 2 or heading 3. But heading 1 is reserved specifically for the title of a page. What I mean by that is, if I go in here and type in the top of this page, title, and I come here to the highlight and make it heading 1. Let's do a Bodoni poster. Make sure that's heading 1. I'll center it. I'm going to make sure all of these are heading 2 now. Okay, so that's basically if you're wanting a rule for headings, heading 1 is generally going to be reserved for titles of pages, and it's called H1 for heading 1. Article headings, you'll find anywhere from heading 2 to heading 3. Okay, and you used to do this in prior versions of Word. They just didn't have the fancy navigation pane to play with. That's actually kind of nice to view it. I don't hardly ever use it, but when it is kind of nice to see that. Because what's nice about it is you can just view this and tell exactly what your headings are. Okay, I know title is heading 1. I know the rest are heading 2. Now, because you can do even further. Notice here, I can actually even go further. So I've got heading 1, heading 2, heading 3, and heading 4. Okay? That's what these are all going to be. Make sense? And so to bring them back, I just bring it back to right-click, promote. Okay? But in general, that's what you're going to see for most articles, most type of newsletters or any type of newspaper, is heading 1 is reserved for title. Heading 2 and 3 is generally going to be reserved for article headings. Now, when I say heading 2 and 3, I'm referring to not heading 2 and 3 here on the page. I'm referring to the heading 2 and 3 style. All right? Make sense? Yes?
Okay, how do you put the word title in there when you're on that?
I just basically put my cursor before H in heading 1, hit enter, then did an up arrow and typed in title. That's all I did.
I just wondered.
Yep. Okay. So let's go on. Navigationally, I've already went all that. Okay. Now, tables in Word. Let's do this now. Save your page, do a Control-S. Keep hitting enter on your page in Word till you go to page 2, and type in the word table on the top of page 2, and then hit enter. What we're going to show you here is how to use tables in Word. And in tables, you can actually arrange horizontal and vertical columns to do, like, say, data, informational data in a document. So say it could be stats, it could be highlighting sales for the quarter, things of that nature. Okay? Couple terms in tables you need to know, and we get more of this into Excel, but fields is basically a way to organize information into fields and to categorize them. So for instance, a field would be first name, last name, address, city, state, zip, phone number, email. Make sense? Record is everything I just mentioned. It's all the fields together is one record. All right? So first name, last name, address, city, state, zip code, phone number, email would all be fields, but would be one record. And you could have multiple records in a table, which is the next one we're going to talk about. Table is basically a wrapper around the fields that is represented. A typical table, each column is a separate field, each row is a record. A header row is generally the very top row in the table that determines labels like first name, last name, city, state, zip, phone number, email. Okay? When you first insert a table into Word, it appears as a simple grid structure. You'll see in a second. with black grid lines defining the rows and columns, and where the row and column intersect is called a cell. And we'll do this in just a second, but I do want to camp on this slide for just a second. It's found in the Insert tab. And just a tip for you, anything you want to insert into any Office document is going to be found in the Insert tab. Okay, that's pretty simple, right? But it is, so if you ask yourself a question, well, how do I get this inserted? Oh, you know, just by you saying insert is a clue where it's going to be found. You're going to find it somewhere in the Insert tab. Okay, so in the Insert tab, you'll notice on the overhead there's a table area that we'll go to in a second. If you want to kind of go there now, you can hover over it, just don't do anything. There's a table button there. And as you hover over the grid here, as we hover over this grid here, it actually will select rows and columns. Let me talk about rows and columns before we do any selection. Right here on my mouse, on this that I'm pointing to on the overhead, would be row 1. And generally this is going to be the header row. The header row would consist of, an example would be on this cell here that I'm pointing to, the second cell on the top row, first name. Then this cell here, second name, or last name, city, state, zip, so on and so forth. These here, let me get my little pointer here. These here, going down vertically, this way, is a column, okay? They start with column A, B, C, D, E, all the way, and so on and so forth, okay? Columns represent, in the intersection, so you got columns and rows here. So if we had first name here, last name, city, state, zip, so on and so forth, what I would put here would be the person's first name, then last name, so on and so forth, all the way across. The other way you could do it is, you could put the information here on the left, first name, last name, city, state, zip, but that would be confusing to do it that way. It's easier to do it where the informational headers on the top row. So let's go ahead and just play with it real quick. All right, so hopefully everybody has a blank second page. You have what I'm getting ready to have here, which is table. You've hit enter. If you don't have that, you need that. So just keep hitting enter till you get to page 2, and then type in table.
I had trouble getting this.
Okay.
I had a second page, but it's above the first one.
You're on the second page, but above the first one. Just keep clicking enter. Don't worry about it. Yeah, I don't know how you did that. That's okay. Just type in table, then hit enter. So your cursor's blinking underneath table, right? Now go ahead and go to the Insert tab, and we're going to go to the area that has table, right here. And let me do it first, and I'll have you guys do it. How's that sound? Okay? We'll do a simple one. We're going to do a 4x4 table. Now you notice when I highlight 4x4 table, it shows up on the document before I click on it. All right? So if I go ahead and click on this now, it's going to show up the table. Okay, so go ahead and do that. Again, I'll do it with you. Insert, click on table, start on the upper left cell, which says 1 times 1 table, and keep going down perpendicular here, kind of diagonal, till you get a 4x4. You'll click on the cell that my mouse is on right now to get a 4x4 cell or 4x4 table to draw on the form. When you click on it, your cursor should show up in intersection cell 1, all right, on the first row, first column. Everybody got that? Let's do Control S. Okay. And what we're going to do here real quick, just to show you how easy this is, I'm going to have you type in on this first row, we're going to call this our header row, first name, last name, and let me blow this up so you can see a little better. And then I'll put in here email and phone. Okay? So a real simple data grid we're going to put here, a table that we're going to put in here for data. So first name, last name, email, and phone. All right? Now one of the tricky things here you can do is, and by the way, this little navigation thing that's still up, you can click the X on this and get rid of it, okay? Just remember, if you ever want to bring it back, where do I go to bring that back? Anybody remember? View, and then check the navigation pane, okay? So, do this, I'm going to show you something first, then I'll have you do it again. If I take my cursor, and you have to kind of watch closely, and put to the left of that first row, you notice how my cursor turns to like a weird looking arrow. Everybody see that? If I take and click on that once, it's going to highlight that first cell only. If I right click while it's looking like that, I get some options here, okay? For cells only, tables only. I can insert a column to the left, to the right, insert a row above, insert a row below. I can delete a cell, select a cell, split a cell, add border, text, cell alignment, auto fit, table properties. I'm going to go to the border and shading. You're going to do this in a second as well. I'm going to go to border and shading. Nope, you're just going to watch me, and then I'm going to have you do. I'm going to do this all over again. And I'm just actually doing one of these. You're not going to be able to see much really. So let me go back in here again. I'm going to select a row first, which I didn't do before. I'm going to select a row first. As soon as I select a row, you'll see here at the top a design and layout tab. So let's do that together. We can do that together. Just make sure your cursor is where mine is in that first. It can actually be in the first cell. All you have to make sure is your cursor's in the first cell. Right click, select row. Okay? Everybody do that. It should highlight the whole row. Pretty simple, right? Now, does everybody have the table tools at the top? It says design and tools. Okay? Now we're going to go up to the design tab. To the design tab. And over here where it says borders. See where my cursor is? It says borders. You're going to click the drop down. And we're going to go all the way down where it says outside borders. Well, let's do all borders. All borders. We'll do all borders on that one. Yep, press it. Click away. What did it do? It got rid of the borders. You can't even see them now if you print them out. So it's Control Z. Bring them back. And it should also bring back that highlighted row that we just got rid of. Okay. Go back to the design area again, because I'm just showing you some of the things it's doing here. If you hover over these table styles while we're here, you'll notice it will actually change the table styles accordingly. The default one's the one that we were on, the first one here that I'm highlighting with my mouse. But as we go to the right, you'll notice you got light shading, then we've got light shading accent 1, accent 2, accent 3, so on and so forth. I really don't use any of these. I don't like them. The only one that's halfway decent is maybe this one here, but still I don't like them. This is how I recommend doing borders. If you take your, go and cancel out of that, put your cursor back in the first cell, first name, okay? You see this little box on my screen? You should have one as well. It looks like a little box with a square in it, like a cross. Click on that for me. Left click on that, and it should select the entire table, okay? Once you select the entire table, you then can manipulate that entire table. What I mean by that is I can now right-click on that box. Once I've left-clicked, I can right-click, and then I can now go into a lot of different areas, one being, say, borders and shading. Okay? Now, though, when I do borders and shading, it's going to apply to the entire table. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. We're just going to play with it. Let's go ahead on the style first. I'll have you select, keep the style that is, the first style at the top. This is a line style, by the way. Color, let's change that. I'm going to change mine to a blue color. You can change yours to whatever. I'm going to change mine to blue just so you can see what it's doing. So change it to something besides the black that it was. On the width, it should be 1/2 point. Everybody should. We're going to click on the drop down on that. We're going to go to 3/4 point. Make it a little bit thicker, just a little bit thicker. So what you've done so far is you've changed the color and you've upped it from 1/2 point to 3/4 point. You're not going to see anything yet though because we've not applied anything yet. Everybody got that so far? Next, we're going to go over to this area here. This is where you can actually begin to manipulate the entire table. Let me show you, and then you do it. In this middle line right here, this one right here that I'm hovering over, if I left click on that one time, it's going to get rid of it. Okay? Go ahead and do that. It'll get rid of it. I've not applied anything yet. It's just showing me what it would look like. And what it would do is down here, if you look on the overhead, this line here between this column, and this column would be gone. Okay, if I clicked OK, I'm not going to, but that's what it would do. If I click on it again, it brings it back. And it's kind of tricky because if you notice when I clicked on this one, I also got rid of this one here going horizontal. And so as you click on each one, go ahead and practice on clicking on all of those lines all the way around and in the center to where you get rid of all of them. It is a little tricky to do manually, okay, because you're literally clicking on an area that's hard to see. And what I want you to do, once you've clicked off of them and those little blue lines are gone, bring them back, like mine, okay? So what I've had you do is just take them away and bring them back. That's all you've done. Now the purpose of that exercise is there will be times when you have a table where you do not want a line below or above, left or right of whatever cell you're in or whatever row you're in. Now you know how to do that. Get rid of those lines. Okay, you can get rid of them. So let's go ahead and click OK. It should now change your line color to that line color you selected. It should be a little thicker. All right. So let me show you an example, I guess, of what I was talking about getting rid of certain areas on your table. Click on that first cell that says first name again. Click on that one. Right click. Let's go to select row. Right click again. Once it's selected, right click again. Borders and shading. Now, what we're doing here is just manipulating that row only. And what we're going to get rid of is the lines in between first name, last name, email, and phone. I want to get rid of those lines. All I need to do is click on this line right here in the middle that my mouse is circling around. If I click on it once, it goes away. And you'll notice it says apply to cell. It should say cell right now, which is going to be all that row basically. So make sure you've clicked on that line, it's gone, it says apply to cell, click OK, and then click away. You should then have, like I have, those lines are gone from that row. Okay? And sometimes in headings of tables you'll see that. The lines will be gone in between the headings, but the data will have some information. So let's put some bogus data in here real quick, about another minute. Spend a minute putting some bogus information in here. It can be, you know, John Doe, Sally Jane, you know, Dick Jones, whatever, and then bogus email, bogus phone number, because we're going to add 3 of them. To advance to the next cell, like I'm doing, just hit the tab key on your keyboard, or you can hit the right, left, down, or up arrows on your keyboard. If you're wanting to go right, hit the right arrow. You'll notice when you hit the tab key, like when you type in your email, it will put a little blue underline underneath it, and we'll talk about why it does that in a second. Same with if we had a website, it would do the same thing. Okay. How's everybody doing? Somebody asked about measurements in Word, how to change them. I mean, one of your instructions in that in class was, I believe, what, millimeters? If you go to the centimeters, is that what it was? File, and then it's in options, and it's all the way down to advanced. And the display area to show measurements of whatever. It's in inches right now. You can change them right there. By default, Word's always going to be in inches, though. Okay, so this is recorded, so you can watch it later. But I just want to stop while you guys were doing that. Okay, now one of the things we can do as well, if I keep hitting Tab here, go ahead and go to the end number, whatever your number is, and hit Tab. You'll know what it does. It creates a new row automatically. If you keep hitting Tab, so if you get to the last row, at the last cell in the last row, and hit Tab, it'll create another one for you, so you continue on easily without having to insert a new row manually. It'll do it automatically by just hitting Tab key. So that's nice to do that. Two more things I want to cover. Headers and footers and information, and then three more things. Headers, footers, and then also page number or date range, because in your take home for this week, you're going to be inserting a date, adding 10 to that date, whatever. So whenever they open the document up, it's going to add 10 days to whatever that date is automatically, all the time. I'm going to show you how to do that. Okay, so let's do this first. Control S to save it. I want us to go to the Insert tab. Before we get to the headers and footers, because we're in this area, cover page is one of the things that covers in this, which you use sometimes for your documents here on campus. You're doing a report for work. It's towards the end of the document. It should be the very last thing in the document. If you click on the cover page and go to the drop down, it gives you some really plain Jane ones to really fancy ones. Okay? I want to go ahead and select, for this example tonight, let's just select the alphabet one, which is a title block. We click on it. Where does it put it at in the scheme of things in your document? Page 2, page 3, page 4, page 1? Page 1. By default, it's going to put in page 1 for you. Now, what it'll also do is, you'll notice mine says RBC, which your guys probably will too. But at home, when you set up Word, you had to fill in some fields when you set up Office, and you'll have your name in there. So your name should be in there in place of RBC at home. And so here's where you basically type in your title, just like it says here. So I'll go ahead and type in title, and then here's the subtitle, and then date. When you click on this, it actually brings up a date that you can pick on. I can click today, and it's going to bring today's date in. Now this isn't a auto date, so whatever you select, it will stay as for that cover page. Okay. Now I want you to advance to page 2 or 3, it doesn't matter. We were on page 1 with the cover page. Page 2 or 3, we're still in the insert area. Scroll your eyes over to the header footer area, page number. Okay? Let's do the header first. Click on the header area and click and hold it there. Headers, if you've read through your text, headers are for information for your document, such as have page number on there, document title, a number of things that headers are for. Generally, headers, though, and footers both, do not show up on the cover page or the first page of your document. Again, you should be in the Insert tab of your document, scroll all the way over to the header and footer area, click on the drop-down header.
This thing just went crazy.
Okay.
All of a sudden it switched to this.
Just say cancel. I know what it is. You ran it through Eagle and it messed it up, so don't worry about it. Go back to your document that we're working on. Okay, insert. And we're all the way over header area.
Are we supposed to be in the header or
Just like I am right there. Just click on the drop down and all that will show up.
I got that, but I'm not sure. Is my insertion point, should it be there or should
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
It doesn't matter where your insertion point is. You could be on the, we could be on the cover page right now, it doesn't matter. Because headers apply to the entire document by default. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and select here a default header. Let's go ahead and do this first one here, which is a blank one. Okay, as soon as you type in that or click on it, it then sends you to the header area of the document. And again, you could be on any page, it doesn't matter, because anything you type in this header area shows up on every page. Okay? You'll notice everything else is kind of grayed out below, and everything above there I'm ready to type in. So let's just go ahead and type in your first and last name in here. Okay? And you'll notice here on the Design tab right here, the one thing you want to make note, every time you use a header, you want to make sure and uncheck different first page. Okay? Yeah, we're going to uncheck it first just to show you. Uncheck it. Okay? Go back to the cover page for me if you would. Go scroll to the cover page while you're in view of everything here, because you can scroll up and do stuff while you're in here. So just scroll to the cover page. Check mark first page again. All right? You'll notice it says different first page. It actually changes your page marker. That's the reason I wanted to show you that. What this is doing is, by default, Word is going to have the first page have a different header, and by default, that header is going to be blank on the first page, like this one here. Okay? So you want to make sure that this is checked on your first, by default, in 2010 it is checked. In other versions it wasn't, but this one it is. So when I'm on page 1, I'm going to scroll down to page 2. Is it on page 2? It is. Is it on page 3? Yes. Now, if I go back to page 2, for instance, I type in Chuck Conkle, and I'm going to put a space here, and I'm going to put document. Go ahead and do that with me. Document. Control S. See if that changed on the other pages. It should. Okay? It should say Chuck Conkle's document or your name's document on all the other pages. All right? While we're in the header area, let's also notice, we're not going to use this tonight, but different odd and even pages. This is if you're making a booklet, okay? You're making a booklet, and you might want that booklet to have on the odd and even pages different headers, okay? That's the purpose for that. But for most documents that you'll be doing, most research papers, documents for work, the setup is going to be just like this. Different first page, show document text, everything else is pretty simple, okay? Now, let's go back to the Insert tab. This time I'm going to have you click on the drop-down footer, and we're going to choose a different one this time. I want you to choose the alphabet one, the third one down. Should look like this one when you click on it. Should say type text and page whatever. Mine says page 1, okay? So where it says type text, we're going to actually put in the date, all right? Now you'll notice here in the Design tab there is some parts that we can add. One of them being I can add clip art, picture, quick parts. I can add date and time. If I click on date and time with my cursor here where it says type text, I can go ahead and put in a short format of today's date, which is 9/12/2012, 9/12/2012. Do not check this update automatically, okay? And click OK. Control S. And that should not show up on your first page. Go ahead and confirm that it doesn't, but it should show up on your second page and your third page, both header and footer both. Okay? Let me come around and make sure that's so. So headers and footers are used a lot for that. Now the next thing I'm going to show you is a little bit more difficult, and it's actually on your take-home. Then I'll fire it up and show you on the overhead. I give you a step-by-step in a PDF, but I kind of want to make sure and go over it with you, because out of the whole assignment, that's probably the trickiest part, and I want to make sure everybody knows how to do it. Now granted, I'll fly through it so quick, you'll be like, what? And you'll have to go back and watch it again, but that's okay. You'll have the PDF, and you'll also have the podcast so to watch both, so that'll help, all right, to do it that way. So let me kind of go to our take-home, because I want to make sure you guys know how to do this. So here's the project, okay? Solution, and then this one right here that I'm going to go over right now, how to insert calculated date field, adding 10 days to current date. We're going to do some programming in here. You didn't think there was a programming class. We're going to do some programming. Because you can do programming in any Office document. And I'm going to show you some simple programming, so it's not too much. But part of this document, or part of the instructions here, when you get down to number 12, create a header and footer. In the header, enter the name company, Pond Corner Landscape Supply. Left align it, auto update today's date, center line that. You've done that. You've done the auto update. Just make sure and check mark it to auto update it. Today's date. Sales ends 10 days from today. Right align it. So this is the part we're going to focus on right now. Right there. That's going to be the tricky part for most of you. Sales ends from 10 days from now, whenever they open it, from now. Okay? So let's go ahead and look at that. I'm going to go to this document here, which is a PDF file. And let me open it up the other way, so where it's a bigger screen. Okay. So what you're going to do basically is to insert a calculated date. We'll go through this first, and we'll do it, and then we'll be done. You're going to place your cursor where you want the calculated date to be. In this case, it's going to be where? It's going to be in the header area, I believe, right, for the instructions. It's going to be right aligned. Then you're going to go to View Macros, View Macros. Type in the macro, example, sales end. It doesn't have to be this, but it might be better for you to use that, just so you'll know. It'll be easier for you. It could be any name you want it to be, though. And just to stop right there, a macro in Office is basically an automated function that's done when you open up this document every time you open it up. It's an automated function, okay? So we're telling it to do something automated with a macro. Then what we'll do is we'll click Create Macro button. Then the code will show up on the screen. And then you'll go, oh no, like my 3-year-old does. 3-year-old grandson says, oh no. But that's okay. You'll see the code show up. Then once the code shows up, there's going to be a sub, sales end sub that's going to automatically be in there, because if we name the macro sales end, it's going to automatically, let me see if I can bring this up a little bit. It's going to automatically create this sub for us in the code, the sub end sub. Sub, sales end sub is going to be created. We're going to add this line in, okay? Selection dot insert before, and I actually gave you everything. Selection dot insert before, space, format, date add, D, comma 10. This is where you're adding 10 to the current date in this format. Okay. And then you're going to, it says here, if you want to more or less days, you just change 10 to something else if you were wanting to change this later on. When you're complete, when you're completed, you close it like below. You just hit File, Close, and Return to Word. Then you place your cursor again where you want it to show. Go to View Macros, select the macro, run it, and then it's going to show up in the document. Okay? So what I'm going to do, just to expedite this real quick is I'm going to highlight this line of code because that's the one we're going to, and you can do this too when you're home. You can highlight this line of code and copy it. I'm going to go to the document here. I'm going to go to the header area, and I want to right justify this. So let me go there real quick, and I'm going to put in a different header to do this. Yeah, I just want text, that's fine. Then view macros, view macros. Here's where I'm going to type it in. I'm going to put in, let me follow the directions. What am I putting in here? Sales end. Sales end, create it. There's my code, right? Nothing scary. That's all I did is hit create. I'm going to paste that command I told you to paste. Save it, Control S it, File, close and return to Word. I want it to show up here where this text is here. So I'm going to go back to macro, view macro, run. Get away from it, come out of that. There we go. 10 days from today. All right. Pretty simple, right? Pretty painless. But seriously though, that's how simple it is to do something like that. And that's something you can't do without doing it the way I showed you how to do it. Well, there is ways to do it, but it's a lot longer. The way I show you how to do it with a code is a lot simpler, I think, once you learn how to do it. And you have that snippet of code, you can use it over and over again for whatever use you need it for, okay? Because there are always times where you need a document. An example would be, anybody in sales or been in sales before? Okay. In sales, you usually have a lead time, or they have like, you bid something and say, 3 months down the road or 60 days down the road, another milestone hits for whatever it might be. That's where this type of thing can be used. Not only that, say you work in a business where you, your company lets people have credit, maybe, and they have to go through an application process. Generally, most application processes, when it comes in, you have so many days when it comes in to where you have to respond. You have to respond, the business has to respond. So you can put that type of thing in there. So when it comes in, 10 days from that date, when you print, and you literally, what you do on financials, the reason it works like I'm talking about on sales and financial is, when you do this, you print it out, hard copy, the customer signs it, it's on that paper, they sign it, okay? It's hard copy. So it's off the computer and you're printing it. But you don't have time to do it manually each time. You want to make sure it's right. And so that's why you would have it embedded in the code like this. That when the customer's right in front of you, you're typing up the form, this is already in there, you print it out, they sign it, it goes into a file. It's hard copy, it's legal. And anything legal means it's not on the computer, it's in a hard copy, they've signed it. Now they can scan it, scan it and put it in the computer, but there's no more editing. Does that make sense? So the reason this works is for reasons I just mentioned. Legal documents where you're going to, whatever day it is now, 10 days from that, something's going to happen. So that's the purpose for it. But it isn't a lot of code, but it is something cool, I think, to show you. You probably didn't expect to learn in a Word class, is how to use a macro or create a macro. And by the way, there are whole books like Bibles on macros, by the way, that you can do a lot of powerful stuff with it. With a macro, that little sub that's in there, that little private sub, you can do you can do a lot of stuff. You can like launch a web page, start an application, you can download a file from a web server. You can send a file to an email, all within a macro. And so a lot of cool things you can do with it. And if you think about it, there's a lot of malicious things that can be done in macros as well, because it is an automated function that does whatever the programmer programmed in to do, it's going to do. And sometimes you might not know what that is. Now you guys know what it is because you're actually being the ones programming it. And so, but a macro is a hidden function actually because it's named whatever, right? But you don't know really what it's doing in the background all the time. That's why a lot of times, I think since Windows XP or Office 2003, to be specific, when you open up a document that has a macro like this attached to it, it'll warn you, hey, this document's got a macro, do you want to run it? You want to make sure before you run a macro, now this is going to be fine because you know what it is. You want to make sure you know what it is from that person. You can call them up and say, what's this macro for? If they say, well, it's a date thing to do whatever, okay, that's fine. But if they don't know what the macro's for, don't open it up. Because there's a thing called macro viruses that can attach itself to a document, like a Word document or Excel document, that can cause a lot of damage in a computer. Okay? So you're actually creating a program basically behind the scenes in Word to do this. Okay? So the take home tonight basically is that. I wanted to make sure I showed you that at least, and it's videoed here for you as well. But if you just follow the steps on that PDF, you'll do fine. You'll have no problem. If you need to watch, what might help some students is watching the podcast first, how I do it, stop it wherever I'm at, do that certain step, make sure you've done it successfully, then keep playing the podcast until you finish it, basically. But you should be okay. That would be the only spot on the podcast that you might want to go to and really pinpoint, I'm guessing.
Oh, popcorn.
Wow, that does smell really good.
Yeah. Popcorn.
I'm hungry.
I was like, what?
Let's go read the popcorn.
Yeah, I just think it's a popcorn.
Let's go read the popcorn.
Okay, so this is week 4, believe it or not. Week 5's next week.
And then are we done or no?
And we're done next week. Now let me just kind of zoom ahead here real quick. So for this week, you have your tutorial quiz, as always. You've already done your in-class exercise. And by the way, whatever you're at with your in-class exercise, when I stopped you, you're fine. You can just submit that. I'll give you full credit for it. You don't need to finish all of it because I pretty much covered what I wanted to cover when we went through the exercise tonight and the tutorial. So just submit whatever you've got done tonight. You're fine on that, okay? The word project 3 I've went over. The one part I wanted to make sure and go over is step 12, which is the hardest part of it probably. The rest of it's pretty straightforward. You might look at that solution first before you go into it to make sure you know what it's supposed to look like. So when you open up this document, it's going to give you a snapshot preview of what that should look like. You notice in here, I actually don't have that one completed on purpose. I do want you to do that one. And you can do it. You can do the current date and that on your own. Yes?
For those blank lines between the tables,
Yes?
would you have to start each table separately, or can you just?
Yes, I suggest that. Yeah, definitely. Start them separately. So you type as shrubs, you'll insert your table, hit enter once, I believe it is. You can do a shift enter, probably might be better. Perennials, put your table in, hit enter, shift enter, ornamental trees, put your table in. So yeah, yes.
When I did mine earlier today, I had the date in because I knew how to do macros. But when I saw the solution, I changed it back to look like yours.
Oh, that's fine.
I thought I did something wrong.
No, you didn't. I purposely, there's a reason I want to show you in class, I purposely did not show you the code for this because I don't want you copy and pasting that one. I want you to be able to do that one on your own.
Okay,
You know what I'm saying?
I was looking and I was like,
Yeah.
I had the date, so then I
The-
switched it back. So when I
Yeah, it's just a field.
it looks like that already again because now I'm like, I thought. Oh,
Yeah, this one I will give you a full example on this week on the current date plus 10 or the current date or the current date plus 10. I'll let you guys do that
Do you want
on
me
your
to
own.
resubmit it then to you again then? Because I already sent it to you and it looks like yours. It looks like that.
Oh yeah, I want you to resubmit
Okay,
to
I'll
finish
resubmit.
what it should be like. Should
We were
look
working
like.
on it earlier and I was showing her how to do it and then I was like, oh, but his says this, so we should change it. And
Yeah.
like that's-
Yeah, and the source one I purposely left out the code for that middle one and the right one.
Okay, so then
Yep.
we'll have to resubmit ours.
Yep.
Okay.
And that middle one actually is the current date automatically updated. That one is automatically updated with that current date. Okay? So make sure and check mark that check box that says update today's date with that current date. So when you open the document up again, like a week from now, it's going to be that day's date. So make sure you do that. All right, any questions? Okay, so week 5's next week. We will end with, let's zoom ahead to week 5's assignments here. Not as much. You got a quiz again. In-class exercise. On this one, you guys are going to be doing a newsletter. You're going to be starting up with this document here, newsletter, and then at the end of the newsletter, it's actually like a mailer, not a newsletter, a mailer, and at the, where it says blank line, blank line, blank line, we're going to create a database and show you how to create a database of, like, say 5 people in that database in Word, and then automate it to where you could print these out, or like I do, is you can automate it to email this letter to 5 different people, but it'll put their names in the proper, each page will have a different person, basically, a different contact. But you can use email to do that now instead of printing it out. Then what we used to do is print it out, put it in an envelope, mail it. Now we make the letters, go to File, Send Email, and it sends all of, say you have one template like this, 50 customers, it'll create 50 pages, and it'll replace blank line with the actual customer data, like name, address, business, phone, whatever. And so we'll go over all that next week, and you'll learn how to do that. You'll start with that one. And so that was a good one, because you'll be doing mail merge is what it's called, mail merge. Anybody done mail merge with prior versions of Word, maybe? Okay. It's the same concept. It's not changed a lot in 2010, actually, at all. It's just where you started at, really. It's the same exact thing it's had for years on that. And then your last project, Black Eyed Susan, and then we'll be done. And then the very next week, after next Wednesday, we start our Excel class, okay, for those of you in an Excel class. The format for the Excel class is going to be a little different. You will watch a podcast prior to every session. When you come in, we hit hands-on exercise. I walk around and we actually do an exercise together. I walk around and help everybody because it's a little bit more in depth. We have a little bit more to cover with Excel than Word. And not only that, if you're just starting with Excel, it is a little harder to pick up sometimes. And so that's why I tell students to watch a podcast before. I make a podcast before the class. You watch it, you come to class, then we do together the in-class exercise, and a lot of students actually get their homework done then as well. We can get it all done in the same night. Get it all done. Okay? Or the majority of it, get it knocked out, the hard stuff. So, and really it's an intro class, so none of it's really hard, but I say hard stuff. Yeah, I say hard stuff, but it's really not hard stuff. It's all intro, so. All right? And oh, by the way, I am on the, somebody said they already saw it, WIFR 23 News.
Oh, you are tonight? Why?
It's on tonight. They're going to promo my iPad development course I'm teaching in the spring.
What channel is it?
You did
WIFR channel 23.
No, what are you doing again?
I'm teaching, let me just show it to you on the overhead. It's easier to show it to you.
Yeah.
Because they're supposed to be highlighting this webpage too, but she came out about a week ago, Tina Stein did from WIFR, and interviewed myself and a student. He's going to be taking the class. He's working for FlatWallet.com right now. You might have heard of that website. Anyway, we're starting in the spring an iPad, iPhone, iTouch development course. We were approved. We were approved in April of this year as a Apple iOS developer course, and so now I can teach the class. And I've been developing in iOS for probably about 3 years now, and so students will be able to learn how to develop applications and then publish them to the Apple Apple Store, and begin selling apps if they want to. So she's supposed to be promoting that. And the main reason I had her really promo it was the prereqs. Some of the prereqs students were asking about, and I actually highlight that on the webpage as well. I'll show you real quick. The prereqs for the class, for those of you that might be interested in the iOS development course. Basically, all you need is C++ or VB background, college credit or experience, latest iPad version, and latest Mac. The Mac can be a Mac Mini, MacBook, or iMac, one of the three. We do have a whole Mac lab we'll be teaching this in upstairs, which is nice. And all the software is free. It doesn't cost anything. And you will get waived the $100 development license that Apple charges. That'll be waived as well. You won't have to put that one, so that's good. And so by the end of the semester, you'll be able to create iOS applications. You'll learn how to create gaming and productivity apps. So gaming like Angry Bird type games to productivity apps like Office type applications and calendar type applications. We might get into some music type apps, I don't know, but for sure I know we're going to do productivity and games. And then you'll end with a final project to where you'll submit an app, a free app, to the Apple Store. And so that's kind of cool. So I'm excited about that. So that's going to be on at 10. If you do have any questions about this, I do have you guys can email me, and if you have, or stop by before you leave, and I'll be more than glad to answer any questions you have. So, all right, see you next week.
You just wanted us to
10 o'clock, WIFR, channel 23,
Your question is that
spring 2013.
we lost our thing that we were doing here, the in-class exercise.
You lost the whole document?
Yeah, the thing that we were doing in here, we lost it.
Oh, okay. Don't,
I mean, we were doing it.
no, the in-class? The in-class is turning whatever you have done.
We can't.
You wiped it out?
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's do this then. In the Dropbox for the in-class exercise, just put your name in the title and submit. Don't worry about submitting a document. Yeah.